Hi everyone, let's begin our class. And today we'll be having a mom, an elementary classroom in a slum. I would like to remind you that in our previous class, means up to now what we have seen, I would like to remind you back. See, as we have seen that we have completed up to the red trap, and in the poetry section we have completed two poems, A Thing of Beauty and My Mother 66. And this is the third poem, An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum. It has been composed by Stephen Spender. I would like to read something about, means I would like to introduce you about Stephen Spender. Stephen Spender is an elementary school classroom in a slum, deals with the themes of social injustice and class inequalities. The children of a slum school are like the scum of the earth. Their faces are pale, their hair are torn around like rootless weeds. Their stunted figures with twisted bones. They inherit diseases of their parents. They belong to the dirty world of cramped halls. The poet thinks that the gap of the two worlds can be abridged. These unfortunate children must be taken out of these dirty and unhygienic surroundings. They must breathe in fresh and open air. They should be allowed to have full mental as well as physical development. So, very important thing, I would like to tell you something about Stephen Spender. See, Stephen Spender is known for his dealing with the children and the poor people. Most of his writings reflect that he is concerned with the poverty and with the poor people. He always stood for them, and most of his poetry and his writings are dealing with the social justice. He was the opinion, and it must be, that on the humanity basis, on the humanitarian ground, everybody is equal. Throughout this planet, throughout this world and globe, we find two categories of people. One is rich, another one is poor, and there is always exist a deep chasm between these two worlds. One is stuffed with each kind of amenities, full of joy and happiness around, and on the other hand, we see the poor people only the shortage, the scarcity, the lacking in life. That is their fortune, and this is nicely explained here through this poem by Stephen Spender. So, in one line, I would like to tell you that this poem is related to the poor world, the poor people, and Stephen Spender here has tried his best to explain and draws the picture of the world of the poor, and through this poem is asking the rights of these poor people, because they are the sharer, they are also the part of this planet, they are also human beings. So one sentence, one message is lying behind, that as it's our social responsibility, those who have money, those who have power, those rich, they should think for these poor people. Especially he urges the government, the officials, what we see around, that the rich people are never executed, they are not exploited, only the receiving end is received by the poor people. That is their fate. On one hand they are poor, on the another they are squeezed, they are tortured and tormented, they are exploited, They're deprived of the basic needs like food, shelter, and water. And it's too pathetic. And through this poem, an elementary school classroom, Stephen Spender is asking the rights of these poor people through this poem. So let's see what is there ahead. An elementary school classroom in Islam. If we come at the title, an elementary school classroom in Islam. An elementary school means the primary school, up to 5th we can say. And that is also in Islam. What a beautiful picture Stephen Spender draws before us. One primary school, and that is also located in Islam. We don't find high schools, secondary schools. Rarely we find a college, university, or a big school in Islam. What we can find, the primary schools in the slums, because these people, if they are up to 5th, if they come up to 5th, that is also great thing. Means a lot of things. The idea is clear in itself in the title, an elementary school classroom in Islam. That is a primary school, and that is also in Islam. So we can imagine here, through this title itself, the poet draws in front of the grim reality of poverty, the poverty of the people in the slum, that is their fate. They are up to 5th. He's not talking about the senior and senior secondary school over here. And that is also raised by donation. They don't have the capacity. It must have been a government school which has been raised out of donation and by some rich people. So once the school is open, if we come at the reality, few teachers are appointed and no teaching at all up to 5th. No amenities. Drinking water is also a dream over there. Books are delivered, that is by donation. Midday meal is delivered, that is by donation. Teachers are appointed on the mercies of the government, and they are paid by the government. So Stephen Spender is talking about the poor schools, the poor people, and throughout the poem only one idea runs, and that is the right. He is asking the right of these children. He says that they should make the history. They should make the history. They have the rights. They should see the globe. They should have the dreams as the rich people have. They should have the same rights as the rich people have. They should given the best education so that they can come out of this hellish place, and they should cherish their dream. Their future may be bright. Education can move the mountains. Education can change the world. If these children are educated, they won't be limited. They won't be limited to the begging. They won't be limited to these slums. If they are educated, they will also become doctors, engineers, professors, businessmen, and all. And that is the responsibility of the government and the rich people, that these children must be taught nicely. School must be full of amenities. School education must be strong so that they can go ahead in life and they can dream. They can make their future. This is all given over here in this beautiful poem. So let's begin the poem. We'll be having a little portion of it today, and then we'll move further. So let's begin. The first line goes like this: far, far from gusty waves, these children faces like rootless weeds the hair torn round their pallor. The tall girl with a weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with rich eyes, the stunted, unlucky hair of twisted bonds, reciting a father's gnarled disease lesson from his desk. At the back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young, his eyes lives in a dream of spiral scheme. In the tea room, other than this. Uh, Before explaining the stanza, once again I would like to remind you that if we translate the line, if we come to word by word, that is known as paraphrase, and the meaning behind the words, that is known as implication. So we have to paraphrase the words, the lines, and then we have to go for the implication, what the poet, what the writer tried to say through those lines. I hope I am clear to everyone that what is paraphrase. Paraphrase is translation. If something is given and if we translate, means we are translating, we are writing, we are changing the language. If something is given in Hindi and if it is translated, it is in the written form. But one person speaking and another one is translating, that is known as interpretation. Now, what is paraphrase? Paraphrase means word to word, line to line translation of something, and implication is the meaning behind. So, if we get into the heart of the poet, if we read the lines by a deep heart, poems are read by the heart, not by the eyes, and we have to draw the meaning. That is what we have to do, and that is where we can find the poems beautiful, and we can understand what is the meaning behind, what is the message, what is the theme of the poems. Because it is indirect always, it is not direct. I explained you so many times, and again I would like to remind you this. So let's go further. I'll be having only 4 lines today, and then we'll be going further. Far, far from gusty waves, these children faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor, the tall girl with a weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with red eyes. I'll be having till here. First of all, we'll see the beauty over here in the first line. Already we have learnt what is alliteration. F sound is repeated again and again. Far, far, F, gusty waves. These children faces again F. F sound is repeated again and again. And then he says, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor. Here, in the third line, the tall girl with a weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with red eyes. If we come up to the fourth line, W sound is dominant. W is repeated again and again, and that is alliteration. And this is the beauty of the poem. Now we'll be coming to the imagery. Imagery is another figure speech, means to clear, to beautify the poem. The poet uses imagery, different words. If I say tiger, as soon as I pronounce the word, there forms an image of the tiger in our mind, and that is known as pictorial quality. Pictures, word pictures, and that is known as imagery. So, in a poem, imagery is also very important. The poet very wisely select the words to convey his meaning. Here, far, far from gusty waves, He takes us to the gusty waves. Gust means come with the power. The water is gusted on a seashore. Far, far from gusty waves, these children faces. Means these poor children, those who are located, those who dwell in these poor places, the slum areas, they are away from the waves. What does he want to convey through the first line? Means there's no open life for them. There's no oxygen for them to breathe even. Means, and the waves represent the dreams. They are far, far from the seashores. The happiness, the dreams in life they don't have. Gusty waves, they are away from the seashores and they are in the slums. Means he draws the big chasm, big gap between the open and beautiful world, the world of dreams, the future, and that is the seashore. He takes the example of seashore and compares it with the slum area. He says, far, far from gusty waves, these children faces like rootless weeds. The hair torn round their parlor, the tall girl with a weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with red eyes. He goes on to say there are some children. He takes each and everybody and talks about them. That these children are away from the seashore. And seashore represents the hope, the success, the happiness, and they are away from these gusty waves. There's no hope, there's no future. They will get somehow some primary education, then they will go for begging, they will be engaged in child labor, that is their life. They cannot go to these shores. Seashore is the symbolic of hope, enthusiasm, happiness and future. But they are away, they are deprived of these gusty waves and they are located. They are stopped. They are forced to live in this slum area and that is their life. If we, as soon as we'll be moving further in the lines coming to us, then we'll see more about it. That has become their life. They cannot come out of this slum area. I'll be coming back to the first line. Far, far from gusty waves, the children faces like rootless weeds. The faces are like rootless weeds. Rootless weeds. Why? Because they don't get food. There's no nourishment in them. They are very poor, very weak, very frail, and full of diseases. They hair torn round their parlor. Hair means their heads are not made. They are not combed well. It shows the poverty through these words, weedless weeds and torn hair. The poet wants to convey the grim reality of poverty. The tall girl with a weighed down head, one girl is sitting in the class, weighed down head. There is no teaching at all. Children are sitting like this. The paper is seeming ball. One boy is sitting in the class is just like paper. So, through the imagery of rootless weeds, the hair torn, tall girl with weighed down head and paper seeming boy. And that is also with red eyes. Means one boy sitting, he is just like a paper, very thin, very frail, unhealthy. And he is just like the red eyes. Red eyes. He's comparing his eyes with the red one. With the red eyes. He's so weak, frail. These children are sitting in the class. Through this imagery, the poet is drawing the grinding poverty of these children in front of us. So we can see in this stanza, the poet is describing the children, the poor children in the slum area, and that is in the primary school. We'll be having till here. Now coming class we'll be going further. Till that, bye everyone.